Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances, Maharaj.
Dhanyavad.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Sorry for disturbing you. Yes, Maharaj. We can start, Maharaj. Thank you for coming.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narancheva Narutam Devim Saraswati Vatsa Tattva Jaya Mudire Nasrapaye Svabhadrisu Nityam Bhagavata Seva Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavaiti Naistiki. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 42. Tatam Ritam Pasuvat Pasa Badam Avan Mukam Kaman Chukupsi Tena Niriksha Krishna Pakritam Guru Sutam Vama Swabhava Kripaya Nanamacha. So word for word translation, Tata does Arita brought in Pasuvat like an animal, Pasabanda tied with ropes, Awak Mukam without a word in his mouth, Kama activities, Jugupsitena being heinous, Niriksha by seeing, Krishna Draupadi, Apakrita, the doer of the degrading, Guru, the teacher, Sutam, son. Vama, beautiful. Swabhava, nature. Kripaya, out of compassion. Nanama, offered obeisances. Cha, and. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace is Confounded Acharya. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Sisuta Goswami said, Draupadi then saw Aswatthama, who was bound with ropes like an animal and silent for having enacted the most inglorious murder. Due to her female nature and due to her being naturally good and well-behaved, she showed him due respects as a Brahmana. Purport. Aswatthama was condemned by the Lord himself, and he was treated by Arjuna just like a culprit, not like the son of a Brahmana or a teacher. But when he was brought before Srimati Draupadi, she, although begrieved for the murder of her sons, and although the murderer was present before her, could not withdraw the due respect generally offered to a Brahman or to the son of a Brahman. This is due to her mild nature as a woman. Women as a class are no better than boys, and therefore they have no discriminatory power like that of a man. Aswatthama proved himself to be an unworthy son of Dronacharya or of a Brahmana. And for this reason, he was condemned by the greatest authority, Lord Sri Krishna. And yet, a mild woman could not withdraw her natural courtesy for a Brahmana. Even to date, in a Hindu family, a woman shows proper respect to the Brahman caste. However fallen and heinous a Brahman Bandhu may be, but the men have begun to protest against Brahmana Bandhus who are born in families of good Brahmanas, but by action are less than Sudras. The specific words used in this sloka are Vama Swabhava, mild and gentle by nature. A good man or woman accepts anything very easily, but a man of average intelligence does not do so. But anyway, we should not give up our reason and discriminatory power just to be gentle. One must have good discriminatory power to judge a thing on its merit. We should not follow the mild nature of a woman and thereby accept that which is not genuine. Aswatthama may be respected by a good-natured woman, but that does not mean that he is as good as a genuine Brahmana. That's the end of the purport. Gyana Timirandasya, Gyana Jana Salakaya, Saksur Meditam. Yena Tasmai, say Gurubena. The Chaitanya Bistan, Stapfi Tam Jena Bhutade. Swayam Rupam Kadamayam, Dadati Swa Padantika. Pancha Kalpataribhya Cha Kripasundabhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanabhya Vaishnavi. Namo. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Si Advaita, Garadhara, Sivasadi, Si Gaura Bhakti. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Cheta Swami Itina. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada. Sapanese Gaur Kavan Sakta Bhakti Cheta Swami Itina. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Itina. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine. And every says the Sunya Bhadi Pasutara. So, in this very text, we have a very insightful purport by Prabhupada. And Draupadi, as most of us know, she is a very respected, ethical, and value-based mother and a wife. Value-based in the sense that she respects the values of society. She honors the cultural norms, and also has honor and respect for whom that is due, despite whatever they do. And this is very strange, because in most cases we find that people lost their sense of patience. When someone in a position like a brahmana acts against the norms, acts against the grand norms, or acts against the values of their position. So, although she was very much aggrieved of this, of the inglorious killing of her sons, when she found this situation of Ashwatthama bound, shaved. In fact, in text in text 58 also, it's mentioned how even the money, the jewel that Ashwatthama was born with, which was the source of his power, was removed. And so initially, Arjuna had opted to kill Ashwatthama for this heinous involvement. But Krishna forbade him, in the sense that killing a brahmana is very heinous. And so, although Ashwatthama was supposed to exhibit or to live by the Brahmanical culture, he was short of those values. And although he had acted based on revenge for the killing of his father, still his action was condemned by even Lord Krishna himself. And therefore, it is essential to understand how the very social status that we find ourselves, our status quo, commands a particular type of expectations. And because we are supposed to exhibit a particular type of quality, and now in the case of Ashwatthama, he lacked self-restraint. Completely, he lacked self-restraint. And it's very common that you find people who acted against even their better judgment. This is a typical case of someone acting against his better judgment. But because he was very disturbed about what had happened earlier, and so he wanted to revenge. Revenge. This is the consequences of revenge. Revenge means something happened, and we want to pay back the perceived doer or those who facilitated that action. And that gives us a sense of satisfaction. So here, Ashwatthama went into the camp of the Pandavas to annihilate Dhristadyumna and his Upa-Pandavas. The children that were killed are referred to Upa-Pandavas, the sons of Draupadi. And in the purport, Prabhupada mentioned something worthy of reflection. He said, because women are naturally mild, in other words, they're soft-natured. And so, why are women soft nature when it comes to invoking stringent measures and so on? Why are women soft nature? One of the biological and emotional reasons is that women know the pain of childbirth. They carry a baby for 9 months or 8 months in the womb, so they know the pain of childbirth. Unlike the man, who does not really have a bearing or an understanding, a practical experience of what it takes to have a child, what it takes to deliver a child, what it takes to be pregnant for 9 months. The pains that a woman endures, they're so intense. And even at childbirth, they pass through so much of traumatic situation. And so, having all of this in mind, this sort of like influenced them to be soft-hearted towards people. Unfortunately, the modern man, we take advantage of the soft nature of women. So the same Draupadi, she exhibited a sense of compassion here, because when Arjuna wanted to kill prefer to kill the culprit, Aswatthama, she has experienced, she has the lived experience of the traumatic effect of having lost your child. So her contemplation was, see, I'm passing through this traumatic situation. So if Aswatthama is killed, his mother is also going to pass through a similar traumatic situation. Therefore, what is the use? This is a typical case of someone feeling the pain of others. Paraduka duki. She has seen this. She has seen suffering. Sometimes, people who have not seen suffering, they're very careless. They wouldn't care much about the suffering of others. Or if someone was really loved, they want to love others. Or if someone was not loved by the parents and they feel that pinch, they want to overcompensate for that by creating an avenue where other people don't pass through that type of the depravity of being loved. So because Draupadi is experiencing that suffering, that pain, that emotional trauma from the killing of her children, she didn't want another woman to have that type of experience. And therefore, she did not align with Arjuna's idea of having having Aswatthama killed. But for Aswatthama's position, by being deprived of the money that he was born with, that made him a Chiranjiva. Chiranjiva means someone who cannot be killed. But they have people who are very powerful. They are endowed with some type of special potency. And Aswatthama's potency was on his money, on his head. There was a jewel on his head. So he was deprived of that jewel. And even before then, he was feeling very morose. And even by being deprived of that jewel, he becomes like completely, like someone who is fatally ill, looking up to death. And because Lord Krishna himself was not in support of the killing, what else could be said? And therefore, Ashwatthama is considered to be one who has performed an act which was against societal norms and against Dharma. And in fact, to hurt someone to the point of killing the babies or killing her child or killing her children, a mother would prefer to be killed than for you to kill her child or her children, because of that biological, emotional, physical connection. So, Ashwatthama, although he was supposed to be a role model for the Brahmanical culture, he fell short of that glory. So in the Prabhupada Prabhupada mentions, even to date in a Hindu family, a woman shows proper respect to the Brahmana caste. However fallen or heinous a Brahmana Bandhu may be. Brahmana Bandhu means someone who is supposedly born in a Brahmin family, but he does not have the qualities, or she does not have the qualities of, she does not live the qualities of a Brahman. In other words, one is a Brahmana Bandhu. It does not have, is devoid of those qualities. So these days it's so common, especially in the Asian world, Asian countries, so specifically in the Indian subcontinent, people are born in Brahmanical families. And even till now, in some parts of India, it's very rampant. If you're not born in a Brahmanical family, you will not have even a chance to be able to participate in spiritual discourses or be invited to a forum of spiritual discourses, because you're considered like, you're not qualified by birth. But at the same time, Bhaktisiddhanta was very much against this type of rating people based on their birth. And the example that we always find is that it's just like a child may be born to, these days is very common, the father is a doctor, the mother is a doctor, and the child may not be a doctor. Or the father has a PhD, the mother has a PhD, and the child may not even go up to having, may not be able to even have a first degree. Although the child is born in that circumstance where the parents, both parents are there to motivate the child. So women, mothers, they wouldn't care less about what their child is. That affection for the child is always there. And therefore, they don't play. Even monkeys, you don't try with your child. With your, I remember one day in Vrindavan temple, someone was telling me a story about a monkey. The baby monkey, somebody or other slipped down into the premises, and then the mother, went through the gate where there were security guards. Just imagine how mothers can strive to protect the children. And then the mother of this baby monkey, she perceived that somebody was responsible for the babies being slipped down into the premises. And she identified the person. And she just passed through the gate, came into the temple door, and then went straight to one guy and beat him. So even animals, they're very, very caring for their children. They're very, very protective. And so if their child happen to be killed, they'll fight tooth and nail to harm you. So this is just, it's a natural, a protective care for the living entity. We don't only protect ourselves, we go around to protect our families. And therefore, if someone hurts our child, we could go at any length to fight that person. So we find in the case of Arjuna, he was very infuriated. He came around with all type of, protests to be able to fight against. But anyway, Arjuna is Krishna Bhakta, and he has to act according to what Krishna decides. Prabhupada mentions that a good man or woman accepts anything very easily. But a person of discriminating intelligence should go beyond just accepting things based on their nature and nurture. And therefore, it is important that things have to be evaluated based on their merit. Discrimination means that we discern between good and bad, evil. So, Prabhupada urged the readers of this purport to have a sense of discriminating intelligence. If something happens, that should be judged based on the merit. In other words, it should be judged based on what is ordained by the authorities. So he said, Aswatthama may be respected by a good-natured woman, such as Draupadi, but that does not mean that Aswatthama is a genuine Brahmin. So we have this very scenario, this very story also is found in the Garuda Purana, chapter 145. So when stories are repeated in the scriptures, there is a lot of implications, because there are things that the readers or the learners, the Vedic learners, could learn from those very stories. In the scriptures also we have other Chiranjivas, such as Bali, Lord Hanuman, Kripacharya, Parasuram, Vibhishan, Vyasa. So, Aswatthama is not only the Chiranjiva. But an important factor here is how we should use our intelligence discriminately to be able to salvage a situation, to judge, to be discernible in the way we try to judge. We should use our discriminating intelligence to be able to judge things on their merit. We find that the same Draupadi who is showing this mild nature, she was a little bit harsh on Bhishma. When Bhishma was on his bed of arrows, and then at the terminal point of his line on the bed of arrows, he was giving a satsang on leadership. And a number of saintly people were there. But Draupadi challenged Bhishma. I think I mentioned this also in one of my classes here. Draupadi, we see that she showed different characteristics, features, different mannerisms in the two circumstances. Here, someone killed her children. She was mild and soft, considering that if that person is killed, the mother will suffer the same pain, the same turmoil like she was passing through. But in the case of Bhishma, she challenged Bhishma. You ask, why are you here speaking big philosophy about leadership? Were you not there in the assembly when I was being derobed? What did you do? The Kshatriyas, they're supposed to protect women and children and the elderly. But Draupadi was not protected. Of course, Bhishma gave a good reason for the bias. And what was that reason? He said, at that time, I was being fed by Duryodhana. And so Duryodhana's sinful mindsets, consciousness, I imbibed it because I was eating his grains. He was feeding me, and I got influenced by that. But as he was lying on the bed of arrows, according to Bhishma, he said, the blood accruing from the intake of Duryodhana's grains, the blood has all oozed out. And so he's become purified. And therefore, he was speaking. He was speaking on leadership. And Draupadi reasoned with that. She aligned with that very powerful defense. So women, yes, they're mild nature, but in some cases you find a number of women, they're very straightforward and they take people by meaningful judgment. So Draupadi also took up Bhishma by meaningful judgment. And again, another case of a woman who take up situations by meaningful judgment was Mirabai. Prabhupada was narrating the story about Mira and Rupa Goswami. We're bringing this because the Prabhupada is talking about the nature of women being mild. And so, when Mira was in Vrindavan, she opted to have Rupa Goswami's darshan. But Rupa Goswami sent a message back to her that I don't see women. I don't give darshan to women. So Mira responded. Mira responded that, oh, I thought in Vrindavan we are all Prakriti. And Krishna is the only Purusha. How come you are saying you cannot see another woman? And Rupa Goswami said, yes, you are right. So these great souls, they are very objective. Their life is full of objectivities. They are not biased by dint of their positions. They are open to challenges. And they have a good reason to be able to tell you why they did what they did and why they failed to do what you expected. So in the Indian culture, for instance, women are very, very conserved. Women don't talk before in the presence of their men. Yet we find a Draupadi challenged Dronacharya. Challenged Bhima. I'm sorry. The challenge Bhishma based on her lived experience. And again, yet, we find Mirabai also challenged Rupa Goswami based on a lived experience, on rational grounds, on real spiritual intelligentsia grounds. And that these exchanges constitute a field of learning for people even yet to be born, for generations and generations to come. So, yes, majority of women, they are soft-natured, but some women, they would take anybody, they would take anybody to the extreme to be able to establish the truth. And we find now also in the United States, the leader of Congress is a woman. And she initiated impeachment for Trump twice. It never been in the history of America. So things are changing. And we have to understand that women also have some women also have high sense of discrimination. And we should be in a position to have to protect the women so that they become more respectful to the culture. They become more useful to our organization and to the world. And so hurting someone, especially a woman is very dangerous. And we see the case of Aswatthama, what the consequences of this hurtful behavior, consequences of his hurting Draupadi. He was deprived of all sense of potentiality. And so women are also part and parcel of Krishna. The way we respect the men, we should also try to see that we honor. In fact, what we cannot do to our mothers, to our biological mothers, we should not try to do it to anyone. And when a society is supported by the goodwill and good intentions of women, a society grows tremendously. And so respect is part of the Vedic culture, respect for Brahmanas, respect for elders, respect for those who are teachers. And so it is important that, just like Lord Krishna condemned what Aswatthama did, we can also learn from that if someone performs some heinous act, we should see ways on how to be able to deal with it in a very favorable and compassionate way. And that does not mean that we should throw the law books out of the window. You know, I saw one devotee, one of the pujaris of Mayapur. I used to see him I saw him in Vrindavan last year. So I used to see him in Mayapur in charge of he used to be a pujari at the Panchatattva altar. So I saw him in Vrindavan, then I asked him that, hey, what are you doing here? So he explained to me what had happened. And for the punishment, the authorities sent him to Vrindavan. He did something wrong, but then for his punishment, the authorities sent him to Vrindavan. So we are growing, and we should be learning different ways on how to help people, even people who have the mentality of trying to set things ablaze. We should think of ways on how to help them out, and help to channel their energies in the ways that could be productive. So Draupadi then saw Ashwatthama was bound with ropes like an animal and silent for having enacted the most inglorious murder due to her female nature and due to her being naturally good and well-behaved, showed him due respects as a Brahmin. Respect does not remove one follicle of air from our bodies. We should try to be respectful to everyone. Any comments or questions? Kusha, can I hear from you? Any comments or questions?
Krishna Maharaj, thank you for a nice class.
All right, thank you.
Please, my question is, we hear about protecting the women. What about men?
Men,
because we see even in the Bible, Delilah killed Samson, and women have been causing so much havoc. How can we continue to protect such women? Who protect the men?
Yeah, how many women are causing havoc in ISKCON Nigeria? Do you have any example?
I said in the Bible, Delilah deceived Samson and they killed Samson.
Okay.
And the women destroyed King Solomon and King David.
Okay.
So how can we continue to protect such women who are destroying men?
Yeah, you see, what is in our own tradition, the emphasis is given that we should become caretakers. We should be paradukaduki. We should be in a position to be able to help the weak. And so if someone out of selfish desire, if a woman out of selfish desire wreaks havoc on society, see, even right now, I've seen women who kill their men and they're in prison. One lady killed the twin sister. The twin sister challenged her to a fight with a knife, and she was not carrying any weapon. They're twins. She was not carrying any weapon. And then the sister who was carrying the knife tried to, stab her. And then, she got really infuriated. So somehow or the other, she disarmed her and used the knife and stabbed the sister. But then it ended up that she died. the lady, even after so much of plea from the family members and all this, from the parents, she's in jail right now. So Prabhupada mentioned about making judgment based on merit. So if someone, it doesn't matter whether they are women, if they get involved in heinous activity, then they lost their sense of glory. A woman kills somebody, and we have cases of women killing their husbands. We also have cases of men killing their husbands, killing their wives and the children. These things are going on. But then the important factor is that they are treated based on the merit. They're treated based on the law. So, yeah, we will find out of every 10 there may be a Judas. Women are supposedly mild-natured, but there are some women who are, chattier in spirit. Women are supposed to be chaste. What about men? Men are supposed to be chaste too. So yeah, men are also supposed to be protected based on the laws. So we can't take undue advantage of the to come and kill you. There are women like that. They get hitmen to come and to go kill your husbands so that they can get all the money. But those cases, the women are in jail. So you see what Prabhupada mentions here in the purport is very significant. That we have to use our discriminant intelligence to deal with situations based on their merits. Yeah, it's not that there's no advocacy that no, women should be protected and then men should not be protected. Men and women, we follow the same constitution. It's just that in most cases, women have been victimized because they're physically weak and they don't have that type of intense physical strength to be able to deal with violence. But otherwise, the criminal courts are there. And so if you go to the law court, you see also women, they've been tried as criminals. But then in our devotional culture, we want the men to be first-class men, women also to be first-class women. And so both beings, or both males and females, yeah, we need to understand that everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. And Mama Evansu, that is the fundamental principle that should create some unity amongst the devotees. Mama Evansu Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. We are all part and parcels of Krishna eternally. And so we have to respect, if we have respect and honor for Krishna, we should also respect and honor. So yeah, it is abominable for women to be instrumental to the detrimental situation of their fellow women and men. Does it make some sense?
Thank you, Maharaj. Our next question is from Ganga Prashad.
Oh, okay. Yes, what's the question?
Congratulations.
Class. Thank you for the class.
I can't hear because it's freezing. Kusa, I cannot hear that question because
Maybe we take from George Omega. Angus network is not good. George Omega, you can go on.
who? Yes, please. What's the question? I'm not hearing anyone.
Thank you very much for a very elaborative lecture. Please mention that women are full of compassion. So my question was by, and moreover, you mentioned that they are supposed to be fair. If you go to Saudi Arabia right now, as we speak in the public, and here in African sectors also, I learned some years back, I know that
I can't hear that question again. Kusha?
George, can you write it on the chat room, please?
Yeah, I think maybe it's to write the question.
Maharaj, so my next question is, how we say we are the spirit soul, we are not the body. How do we know when a male spirit soul is in the body of a woman and to deceive us to give them protection, when in actuality they are men?
Well, gender polarization is a common factor these days because some people are in the body of some entities, some jivas are in the body of a woman and they're acting like men. Some entities are in the body of a man and they're acting like a woman. So this sense is there. And I think that this has also led to situations where in the West, people identify so much with their body that when they observe this type of tendencies in them and this type of nature in them, they just, instead of resorting to rectify their consciousness and understanding higher principles of life and higher functional connotation of the connectivity between the jiva and the supreme, they sometimes resort to physical change of their gender. So yeah, it's a common thing. Some people are having a male body, but they act like, they have the tendency to act like females, and vice versa. So whether we find ourselves in these situations or not, what is important for us is to understand that these clothes we are wearing, they are temporary. Dehi knows me, yata dehe, kumara, yavanam, jara, tata, Dihantara Prapti Dira Statanamoyat. So, the important thing is the transmigration of the consciousness. We see that. You see, women are passed through real rigorous situations. And in some cultures, it's even like a curse to be born as a woman. Because in some cases, they don't have even voting rights. Now things are changing. So, back to your question. Physical circumscriptions or physical cases of incarcerations, they should not distract us from the goal, which is to become purified in Krishna service. So whether we are in a physical human, a woman's body, and we have men tendencies, or we are in a man, we are in a man's body, and we have women tendencies, that should not distract us, because ultimately the soul is neither male or female. So these identities basically do not really make it different. We are servants of the Lord. We are part and parcel of the Lord. I mean, it's like Mirabai reinstated to Sanathan that, to Rupa Goswami, that we are all Prakriti. Yeah, we are all Prakriti. So the different bodies we are wearing should not, undermine the fact that Krishna is the only Purusa. And so whatever cloth we are wearing, we should maximize the utility of that body the body tabernacle, and focus in developing our consciousness, in Krishna consciousness. Is that okay? Yes, is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much. The question is on the chat room from Kavitanapu.
Oh, where is the question? Can you read out the question to me?
Okay, George, I don't know if George Mega is ready to ask. Okay, we have a question from Sadev. Sadev, please unmute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
What about, excuse me, what about the question you said is on the chat room?
It's not really the question. It's not a question. It was to me.
Oh, it's a comment. Okay. Okay, next.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the class.
You're welcome.
Let me see. I don't have very good reception here, so I will turn off my video.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. So thank you. My question is about the actions of Mother Draupadi. Well, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that because of her nature, being a very special devotee and being a mother, she asked that Ashwatthama not be killed. But in the previous verses we read, where Srila Prabhupada stated that it is actually a beneficial for somebody who commits such heinous crime to be killed, because when that person is killed, then the tendency of yes. And so in our daily lives as devotees, when do we act? No, I wouldn't say act. When do we punish somebody for their sinful or wrongful actions, and when do we just let things go? And what is the difference between practicing justice and revenge. Because I think when somebody is trying to make sure that justice is being served, it is not necessarily revenge, like we see in the court of law.
Yeah.
That's my question. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, if I understand it clearly, the point that the authorities take action on misdemeanors of devotees is indisputable, and that the procedure is also given in the ISKCON law book. If a devotee is, I can't remember the details, but basically, if a devotee is the first offender, we can caution them. And if he repeats that action again, then we can think of some disciplinary action to be met out. But even in the Krishna law book, and ISKCON law book, yeah, first offender, we never read about, we never be using that so frequently. But if you read ISKCON law book, it is mentioned that for first offender, we have to be mild in terms of giving them just some caution. I mean, it's like if you go to the law court and they say this person did this and that. If you have a history of criminal behavior, the judge treats you differently. If you have a history that is devoid of criminal behavior, they see you as a first offender. They may just caution you and then discharge you. So the derivative of the criminal code, ISKCON also adopts similar policy where it is also enacted in the ISKCON law book about how to deal with offenders. And in our devotional culture, we know that ultimately no one is the cake and have it. So we may just, whatever that we are doing, or the authorities do, is to help to set records straight. And the whole idea is that authorities are put there to even help the devotees to be able to move forward and attain their desired goals. But just like I mentioned to you about this boy, this Pujari in Mayapur, he committed some offense. And then the punishment given to him was to come to Vrindavan. So things are changing. When we were very young and immature, yeah, we were rash. We want to, I mean, at that time also there were no definite ISKCON law books delineating exact procedural methodology of addressing, shortcomings of people. And so when the leader or the leaders are in the mood of seeing everyone as part of the family, it makes things easier. Then if someone does something, I mean, like this typical example of this devotee in Mayapur, Pujari. And if someone does something, because we are growing, if someone does something for the first time, we should caution them and talk to them privately, perhaps, like for them to understand. Even your child, if your child, and look, the way we treat our children is the way we are going to treat other members of the community. Now, for the child, there's a way, there's a prescription of how to deal with the 5 years old, how to deal with the 10 years old, how to deal with the 15 years old. And even the parents' attitude towards the child when they're 10 years old should not be the same when they were 7 years, 6 years old. Because 10, 11, 12, the child, they have developed some type of hormones that reflect their thinking patterns to be completely different. So if you do something, if you get too harsh with them, you're not friendly and loving in your dealings with them, then that will also affect their growing up patterns. And so all our devotees also, we have to see how we are becoming more like a close circle of friends and family members. In that way, we could emulate what is going on in, say, in other parts of the world where that sense of belonging is being reintegrated and reenacted for recreating a better future for our communities. The watchword now is not about punishment. The watchword is how, yes, it could be punishment, but what type of punishment? Punishment that will let them, that will enable them to grow, or punishment that will enable them to become degraded and perhaps even lost a sense of integrity. So even the children, we have to know how we deal with the children. See, I went to Washington State. They wanted me to give a class on how to taking care of children, or how to deal with children. And because I did some courses like that in my master's program in critical and creative thinking, critical, creative, and caring thinking. So I spoke to a number of these families in the class, and they were very surprised about the things I said, because some of them they've not even heard of it. And I remember when I was speaking, one adolescent girl, she peered into the eyes of the father like a fight. And later the father was telling me how he used to act, and he never heard of all these things. ISKCON never taught them all this. I said, no, this is not an ISKCON stuff. These are my skills. I learned. These are things I learned in graduate school, and I'm just sharing to be able to help them, because a number of people, they have children, but they don't know how to deal with their children. So the bottom line is that, yes, we have devotees. And remember, one of the things that Krishna Prabhupada told me one time, he said, yes, you've been very strict, but now be fatherly and be tactful in dealing with people. And so we should see ways on how to become, lovingly disposed to devotees, and it will make a big difference. We should see ways on how to become lovingly disposed to our children, and it will make a big difference. That will reflect on the society, because the family is a microcosm of the society. So yeah, like I mentioned the other day, if I don't know whether it was here or some other place, if someone, for instance, is a very a good professional in his workplace, and at the same time a very good devotee, very good preacher, that's fine. But how does he deal with his family members? How does it deal with his spouse? How does it deal with his children? That is the important factor. Because, for instance, you have a guru or senior devotees come to your community, you can serve them so nicely. But are you serving your wife? Are you serving your spouse and your children so nicely? Because service there's reciprocity in service. If someone sees that we are out doing things, we go out of our jurisdiction to do things for them without even they asking, they will want to reciprocate. It's one of those laws of nature, reciprocity. They are compelled to also do something in the future. So yeah, so we'll find out being mild, it pays. But beyond being mild is being intelligently discriminatory in dealing with matters on their merit. So it's not right now. It's not about execution of laws. It's execution of love and parenting. So if you apply this in our families, you see, if someone says your child does something, and I tell you another story. I went to one of the cities in America, and so the mother, the husband and wife, they want to pick me from the airport, and so as we're in the car, the husband and wife, they were just complaining about their 12-year-old child. They said so many things here and there. So we went to the house, and then we sat at the dining table that I need to drink some water. And I look at the woman right in her face and said, "You and your husband, you are the cause of this boy who's behaving like this. Because first of all, you don't know that this is 12-year-old child. There are some hormones running through his system, and his behavior basically reflects on those type of experiences he's having internally. And because you don't know anything about child development, you just marry and produce the children, and now you're blaming him for everything. I say, you change your attitude, and you see that this boy will be a very good asset to you." The wife, what the wife said? Because I told her so many things they are doing to the boy. I don't stay there with them. I told them so many things they do to the boy. And the wife said, "How did you know? All the things you said are true." So, and that, if you transfer that to our relationship with devotees, if someone sees that we love them so much, they become even careful in how they deliberate on the activities so that they don't disappoint us. They think before they put their leg forward. So we should have, we should try to see how we are re-engineering our social relationships with each other in our community. All right, I will have to take a leave because I'm supposed to be taking some medication from 4 o'clock.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for the answer.
It's time bound. Thank you, Saha.
Thank you, Maharaj. So we ask all devotees to unmute yourself. Richard Hare Krishna to Maharaj for coming.
And also, excuse me, for those of you who do not know specific things I'm doing, you could check on my website, bhaktivasudevaswami.com. Or I also have a professional website where I basically use that for professors and conferences that I'm going. Vasudevdas.com. Maybe I'll send those to Kusha so that those who want to have some insight about what we are doing, they could also tailor their ways in that line. And you see, we need people who can help to represent Africa on a global context in terms of preaching to non-devotees. Like, they've asked me to come for some Russian scholars. They're organizing a conference, and they've asked me to come make some presentation. And what we want to see is not just a single person doing all of these stuff. And we have a lot of brains in Africa. So some people should also think of ways on how, think of strategies on how to really reach out non-devotees. You see, to preach in the devotional community is pretty encouraging, but we also need devotees to see how they stretch their hands outside of the devotional community to see how to recruit people from the professional, from the corporate world and the universities. All right, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So we can now unmute ourselves and say Hare Krishna to Maharaj for coming, please.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Rama.
Hare Hare.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to do some service.